Hello folks, and welcome to Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for this, the inaugural round of the 2022 Formula One World Championship. And I've got to say, it feels great to be back. As is tradition, there is something of an air of a first day back at school on arrival here. But it's more than that, because the new era of Formula One has arrived. And with it, the eagerly anticipated new car regulations, which have been designed to help promote better racing. With clean sculpted lines, swooping rear and front wings, which should allow cars to follow each other more closely, new eye-catching 18-inch low-profile tyres, the return of ground effect, and a reduction of aerodynamic physical adornments, the new cars look strikingly different, all while improving safety and pushing the limit of technical ingenuity. So then, which teams have interpreted the rules most effectively, and which drivers will adapt to their new car the quickest, leading the charge against the rest of the pack? Only time will tell. As always, we can't wait for this season to begin, but for now, from us, that's your...
So this first race of the season is always quite difficult for us trackside and for those back at the factory as well, as it's the first time the car has run since winter testing. The more consistent mileage you can get in these sessions, the happier we'll be. Let's get a few laps under our belt.
Months of rumour and speculation all come to an end today as we return to racing for the opening event of what promises to be an enthralling season. Welcome along then to round one of this year's Formula One World Championship. We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And it's Charles Leclerc in P2. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Russell, Sergio Perez, Cooper, Bottas, Fernando Alonso, Norris, and Pierre Gasly. Mick Schumacher, Ocon, Kevin Magnussen, and Tsunoda, Albon, Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel, and Lance Stroll, Joe, and Nicholas Latifi. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. So here we are in 2022 at the start of another Formula One World Championship. It all begins here, the start of the next generation of Formula One. With the end of the second turbocharged era, a new dawn begins. New regulations have been brought in to promote better racing, with the two big standout changes being the wheel size increase and the aerodynamics on the car itself. But will this result in us having a repeat fight for the Driver Championship? Will Mercedes retain their Constructors' title? We have lots to discuss then with Anthony Davidson, who's joined me in the commentary box for today's event.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Let's hope for some good racing today as well. We can't know at this point how competitive the teams are relative to each other, but hopefully nobody's able to run and hide. We want to see these drivers pushing to the limit all the way to the checkered flag.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down. mistake and we could still regain the position. Okay, DRS will be enabled at this lap. You can use it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead and in the DRS zone. Final lap of the race. Okay, the gap behind is 1.8 seconds. up.
That's it then for another spectacular Grand Prix here in Bahrain, and a real champion's drive to take the win. Tell me, Ant, how do they manage to achieve this win?
I think it was clear what the main contributing factor out on track was: speed. I know it sounds like an awfully reductive statement, but fast cars win races, and we saw that today with our winner.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
I have to give it to Cooper. They demonstrated a very delicate touch in close proximity to other cars, as well as showing a lot of maturity and patience in difficult situations.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari take the lead at the top of the table. Well, that was certainly an exciting weekend of Formula One. Be sure to join us for more exciting Formula One action very soon.